I mean, yeah. So that went pretty much how I expected it to. Maybe a little worse than I expected it to. I thought maybe I'd pick up like a few more games than that, but yeah. I mean, I knew this was bad going in, but I mean, and also I had a lot of bad hands. I think I mulliganed to five multiple times, and like we saw my last hand was just really really terrible. Uh, but yeah, I mean, this is a rough matchup. I feel like this matchup just has all the tools it needs to answer what Amulet's doing, and I think the thing I learned about this from this experience is that I think the sideboard, and I don't think I want Dismember because when you have Teferi, Dismember just does nothing, and having a card that's not one of my like cards that makes Amulet work is
Yeah,
not
that's
what.
fair.
But I think I like engineered explosives because I think Alpine Moon on Valakut can be important to answer, and I think Chalice of the Void can be important to answer. So I think in the end, I think my final conclusion on the sideboarding is I think I want to do like -1, like either -1 Saga or -1 Cavern of Souls. Probably -1 Saga because you have so many answers, and +1 engineered explosives, and just -1 Saga +1 engineered explosives, and just try and leave everything intact. But yeah, I mean I had bad hands, but still, even without that, this just seems like an abysmal matchup from the Amulet side of things.
Yeah, from my side, I would say that I definitely felt like I did not draw terribly. I found solitude in most of my draws, and like maybe even in like all of them.
Yeah.
There was that one game, like the one game where you held the two amulets to triple Titan on a single turn,
Mm-hmm.
just to lose like right after that. That's like I could
Yeah.
see that being a little bit depressing from like the amulet side because that's really not how you want to the
Yeah.
games to go. The premise is to play Primal Titan and then win, and then if that doesn't work, if you triple Primal Titan, then that's a bit problematic.
Yeah.
Certainly, on my side, I also have to say that the matchup does require mulliganing hands that are good against that are bad against Titan. Right? Specifically, for example, one of my hands was I think it was Abundant Harvest, Ren, Eternal Witness, 4 lands on the draw. But knowing that I'm up against Titan, this is not a hand I can afford to keep. While against most decks, like if I see my point reveal like Lurus, I would say yeah, sure, we can keep that. That's gonna be fine. Especially
Yeah.
like even on the play, I would be like kind of worried of drawing this of keeping this against Amulet. So
Yeah.
mulliganing a bit aggressively is needed. I'm also playing the time warps right now, which like come and go from the deck lists. I think right now they're good to play in 4 color, although not everyone agrees, and some people are playing without them. I think they play a relevant role in the matchup. Like as you like many games finish with that time warp witness or time warp Ren 6 combination. Like
Yeah.
in one of the games, you had to play Exploders on 2 to explode the Ren. Instead overplaying a Titan, like that alone, like shows that it's a combination that needs to be respected in ways
Right.
that you wouldn't want necessarily.
Yeah. I mean, if I knew that like there were other things like if Ren was gonna ultimate and it was just like gonna be like ephemerates and abundant harvests, I probably and expressive iterations, I probably would be able to just play Titan there, and maybe at some point like a Bajuka Bog comes out and exiles things from the graveyard to kind of nerf the Ren ult, but yeah, with Time Warp in hand, I absolutely had to play the Engineered Explosives on two, and at that point, I knew I was losing regardless. Like I knew that was not a play that was getting me towards winning really, but like it was a play I had to make because if I didn't, yeah, it was a forced play because next turn you had infinite turns basically if I didn't do that. So it's or at least as many turns as you have lands. So it was just I'm just dead if I don't explosives on two. Yeah, so I I don't really know if there's anything I can do to improve this from the Amulet side of things, because right now I feel like Amulet is very well positioned against most of the fair decks of the format because there's a lot of people who are trying to, play blue and play counterspell. And then I have the two caverns in the main deck and the two caverns in the sideboard. Uh, and so there can be matchups like Murktide where I can just side out sagas, side in, caverns and bog to make their blood moons and alpine moons not really do anything and their counter spells not do anything and like exile their graveyard. But the sort of things that I'm doing just don't line up well against Solitude Ephemerate and Eternal Witness Ephemerate. There's just not, I don't really have anything for that, uh, for the things that you're doing.
Yeah,
And
certainly. I haven't followed like maybe the recent Amulet lists lately, that much. And when you sent me your list, and I've seen it was 4 caverns, so I was like, wow, that's a lot. For a brief period, I was trying out playing Counterspell in the Folklore deck, and one like I ended up not playing them, playing like Dovin's Veto instead, which like part of the reason was the fact that the creature I want to counter the most is typically, for the most part, Primeval Titan. A few more, but for the most part, Primeval Titan, and it's just you actually can't counter Primeval Titan like 60% of the time or even more. So it just felt kind of useless.
yeah,
So yeah, certainly with Folklore, there is also a decent amount of variability within the list and adaptability, and it kind of just so happens that kind of incidentally, I think like partly because of Amulet, because I've seen a rise in Amulet's popularity in the like past few weeks, but kind of incidentally, regardless of Amulet too, I thought Time Warp is good overall to play right now, and Spreading Seas is a good main deck card to play, which like all kind of piles on and improves the matchup quite a bit. Certainly, if you were to play against a Folklore deck with no Seas and no Time Warps, something like, well, just like in all the Elementals list was kind of that, you'd probably have more of those easier games where you can assemble double amulets for Saga or not worry about getting taken over in the late game.
yeah. I mean, I did another one of these with Pygonti with Elementals, and I felt like the Amulet looked really good against Elementals in all of our matches, and in this is like a similar type of strategy, but it's a completely different, like, as far as how this just feels absolutely terrible for Amulet. And maybe if it weren't for the 3 Chalice of the Voids in the sideboard, if you just had other random cards in the sideboard, there's maybe somewhat more of a chance because sometimes like I can get a quick Titan and start chaining Titans, and maybe you have a Solitude but you don't have the Ephemerate. If you don't have both Solitude and Ephemerate assembled, chaining Titans can usually be good against a strategy like this. But
yeah, we've seen that in one game where I had the Solitude no Ephemerate and kind of crumbled after exiling 1 or 2 Titans, don't remember exactly.
yeah, but once Chalice of the Void for 0 comes down, that's a big problem. So I have to waste time destroying it, or I just can't play any Summoners packs, and then I just don't produce enough threats. You can easily answer, even without Ephemerate, you can Solitude and then just bounce it with Teferi or return it with Eternal Witness, and suddenly I'm out of threats and I can't really do anything. So
Exactly, and again, the Chalice is like not even there for Amulet, it's like a tertiary, well, maybe secondary use of the chalice, right? Because
Yeah.
it's there incidentally, and it's gonna be there for like the foreseeable future. Because
Rhinos, Living End,
yeah,
Burn.
well, I don't use it against Burn.
Oh,
I
okay.
play plenty one drops in this deck too, but yeah, for the Cascade decks, and like Amulet is
Yeah.
like kind of an afterthought, but
Yeah.
happens
Yeah.
to be fairly effective here too.
Yeah. Yeah.
My,
So
my chat asks, how do you feel about Karn right now? Which you touched on briefly in the beginning, but
yeah. So basically, I've been mostly on the tracker list. I think I've been liking having access to more of a sideboard, specifically like being able to have three engineered explosives post sideboard is really good against rhinos in particular. So with the Karn list, I was finding rhinos as more of a harder matchup. But with this list where I can bring in three engineered explosives, Rhinos becomes a lot less of a problem. Being able to run Gaia's Blessing as like just mill is just otherwise like just a terrible matchup for Titan, and you like the one card in the sideboard makes a huge difference. Like when you have Gaia's Blessing plus Endurance in your deck, it actually I think mill becomes a good matchup. Um, and I don't know. Just generally, I think Tracker is a good threat right now. I think against like anything that's like blue white control, Tracker is amazing. Um, Karn is powerful, and I'm not off Karn, but I think Karn is at its best when there's something specific you want to be doing with Karn in the metagame. Like when Belcher got really popular, Karn is very good. When there's artifact decks all over, Karn is very good. When there's a lot of Ashiok and Aethergus, Karn is very good. Right now, I think Karn's a great threat. Karn is you want a threat that you have when you don't draw Primeval Titan, because not drawing Primeval Titan is the number one way to lose with Amulet. You lose more games to not drawing Primeval Titan than you do to anything else. And so you need an alternative threat. And so Karn is a good alternative threat. But I think Tracker as an alternative threat, I think it's a more inherently powerful card than Karn, just because like there can be games where you get Azusa plus Tracker or Dryad plus Tracker, and just like draw almost your whole deck in the course of like a few turns.
I have to say that Tyrus Tracker didn't end up shining in the matches we've played.
Yeah, nothing really ended up shining in the matches we played. My deck just kind of didn't function so for that last match, like I had the Tireless Tracker and then I just didn't have fourth land. Which yes, Tireless Tracker didn't look good there, but like nothing looks good there in
That is true. That is true. A kind of an unfortunate reality of Amulet that like kind of baseline need to hit enough lands to operate, and that amount of lands is not that low. Even if you're playing 30 something lands in the deck, it still can be tough.
Yeah, I mean, if I had a bounce land and I was able to get like I had the Azusa and the Tireless Tracker, and because I was on a mulligan to 5, and I'm like, well, maybe the Tireless Tracker can get me out of this mulligan, and I kept a land. It was like 3 lands, Tireless Tracker, Azusa, and then I just didn't draw a fourth land until like turn 6 or something, and by that point, I mean, that's just not even close to soon enough. So yeah.
Fair.
I mean, this is also a matchup. You know, if this deck becomes very popular, I would probably move back to Karn as well, because I think this is a type of matchup where Karn really shines, because you don't have as many answers to Karn as you do to Tracker.
It's just would be good to have a threat that is not weak to Solitude. especially the
Right.
way Soul to the Ephemerate works, like where
Yeah.
piling up threats actually makes you super open.
Right.
My chat also jumped to suggest many other secondary threats you could use from the last straw on the sideboard. This one is probably questionable. Ren and
Which
7
Ren and
and
Seven,
Hive Minds too.
yeah, I don't think any of those cards are really where you want to be. I mean, Hive Mind only really works when you have a Pact in hand, and if you're playing Hive Mind, you have to be playing Pact of Negation. I think Hive Mind stopped really being good when there's a couple of things that made Hive Mind not good. So Force of Negation hurts Hive Mind because your opponent can I mean, one of the things that like Hive Mind used to be good against is like blue counterspell type decks. If they tapped out and you didn't have an amulet, it was like a way to close games. But uh, yeah, I mean, with Force of Negation, they can just Force of Negation the Hive Mind. Uh, it also, like, a lot of decks have green in their mana base now. And I think Pact of Negation has gotten a lot less good over time. Uh, there's not a lot of slots left in the list now that there's Dryad in here, and also Teferi kind of makes Pact of Negation not good against most of the blue control decks, because like Pact of the Negation, one of the ways you used to use it was like to help force through a Titan, but with like 3 mana Teferi, it doesn't really help you force through Titans. So I think, you know,
Yeah,
for like control decks, my plan is just like pile of Cavernous Souls. Yeah, I mean, I think
I think it's a better plan now. I think I would like to second what you said about the Hive Mind. I periodically have the thought of revisiting it in Amulet because I liked it, a lot
yeah.
when I played with Summer Bloom. But all
Oh,
the points that you raised are valid, and also, people now have counterspell instead of mana leak, so that's also makes
and I
the Hive
forgot
Mind.
probably the most important thing, which is Castle Garenbrig. Uh, just changes the mana base so much.
Yeah, that's true. It's like actually not easy to cast. You have like 6 sources
Yeah,
of blue. Yeah.
7 with Crumbling Vestige. I mean, I could run more. Like you could always run. I mean, a lot of lists, you know, they'll run like 2 fetches and a breeding pool. I just found that the blue on breeding pool was just basically never mattering, and I just wanted like an extra basic over one of my fetches for like Blood Moon having a green source under Blood Moon and an extra Castle Garenbrig. You know, rather than the breeding pool, because I just found the blue on breeding pool wasn't mattering. Like most of the time when you're transmuting anymore, it's off of a Dryad or like a double amulet Simic Growth Chamber. Like is when you transmute, or like Primeval Titan with Amulet of Vigor, you get like Simic Talaria. But it's not like it used to be more like, you know, like turn 3 or 4 sometimes like transmute was the right play, but like I just don't think that's what Amulet's doing anymore. Like that's just too slow.
But that's fair. There were some situations in our games where I think at least like once or twice you played a Dryad, and I was fearful of you following up with a second fetchland because I foolishly didn't check closely for how many fetchlands are there in your deck list.
Hmm.
There is just that one, Wooded Foothills. It can be very powerful to follow up a Dryad or Wild Tracker with a fetchland for
Yeah.
the double landfall triggers, but
Yeah.
certainly you don't even need Breeding Pool for that if you were to play like a second fetch.
Yeah. So I mean, the question is it better for a fifth forest or a second fetch land? I mean, there's definitely with Tracker, there's definitely incentive for fetch land, and with Dryad, there's definitely incentive for fetch land. Um, I'm I'm also, but I don't know. I find, you know, so often this deck gets into situations where my opponent lands a Blood Moon, and the only draws in my deck that matter are Force of Vigor and Basic Forest. Like that comes up very, very often, and so that's where I'm on the fifth forest right now. But and I mean, not that this is like a big thing or anything, but like I mean, it is one less life. I mean, I know that's probably silly to mention, but like it's also there.
Well, obviously is an upside of
Yeah,
a basic forest.
yeah.
Chat is also very interesting about what you think about Ren and 5. No, not 5. Ren
Ren
and
and
7, the
Seven.
5 mana.
Uh, I haven't played it. I've seen. I think the card is bad. I think it. There was one challenge that somebody top aided with or something like that, and I believe they tweeted afterwards that they cut it in every single matchup. Like it was. It's just not really a good alternative threat. I mean, if you're gonna do a planeswalker, just do Karn. Like Karn is very good. You know, Karn Karn liquid metal coating wins a lot of games of Magic. You know, it hoses a lot of decks. It gets through a lot of the hate cards like Blood Moon and Ashiok uh, and Aether Gust, things that you know are really problems for the deck, and I think it like answers a lot of the problems of the decks really well. So if you want to play a Planeswalker, I think just play Karn. I mean, don't.
Yeah, I can sympathize with that, as I've played one league with Ren and 7 and Amulet, and it was not very good.
Yeah,
The times it was good, it was like a funny win more moments where I was like able to put 7 lands into play with the 0 ability, but I didn't need it to win the game.
yeah,
There's also one card that I personally am interested in Amulets, and that is Gretchen Titchwell, which I don't think I've seen you playing in like any of your lists.
yeah. I haven't tested it yet. I need to get around to it at some point. I know Jose Moniz, who's a really good Amulet player, really likes Gretchen. Um, it's basically the point of playing Gretchen is to be able to draw your whole deck with double Amulet, which like in a matchup like this, you know, there can be situations where Primeval Titan just isn't enough, and but then drawing your whole deck is. I
Yeah, for example, the game where you play Triple Titan and died, right? So
yeah.
I'm not exactly sure if Gretchen would be good enough to win in a game like this.
I also think
Because
that
you'd need to be able to activate her twice to fight for removal, but potentially she could actually solve like some of the weakness to solitude problem in a tiny to some extent.
yeah. I was really curious, and I'm thinking back to that game, and I was trying to decide between Triple Titan and Double Titan because the Triple Titan is obviously very weak to Solitude plus Ephemerate exactly, but then the like Double Titan, you might just Solitude one of the Titans and then like Eternal Witness or I don't know. I was kind of like thinking that the Triple Titan was weak only to specifically like Solitude plus Ephemerate and the Double Titan, like there's possibilities that was just too slow and that you would get me, but I was wondering your thoughts if maybe you think that Double Titan might have been the better play in that situation.
I haven't thought about that during the game
Mm-hmm.
because I was just like kind of waiting for you to perform your plays, but that's actually kind of true.
Yeah.
If you read my hand as Soul to the Ephemerate, which is probably kind of hard to really read, but like if you think that you want to play, if you decide you want to play around that, then Double Titan will actually be a decent way to do that. I think I'll be left with mostly nothing afterwards, and then I probably would struggle to beat the third Titan. It's a really hard decision to make from the Amulet's player standpoint. So
Yeah. I mean, I think I was also worried about things like Solitude, one of the Titans, and then like Prismatic ending one of the Amulets, because I was kind of putting you on Prismatic ending, I think, uh, just based on the fact that you like weren't casting things like, and I don't know, I figured you'd probably keep a Prismatic ending if you had one after the Mulligans, so as a way to go for Amulet, but I don't know. It's a tricky matchup to play. I obviously didn't play perfectly. I conceded way too fast in our first game. I missequenced the turn as well, the turn that I conceded. But it didn't end up mattering.
well,
But
there's no universe where players in tournaments play perfect. There's always
yeah, yeah,
something floating here. Like actually, I don't remember if I've read like some Patrick Chapin's article from ages ago where he was saying that when he playtests before Pro Tours, he like doesn't allow for like takebacks in games because
right,
like some people want that because intuitively they say, oh, let me cast a removal spell on your creature B, not on creature A, because that was a mistake.
yeah.
But
No, I'm
there's no
not.
take six boxes at the PTN. Like you can't expect players to always play perfectly.
No, I
They actually
certainly
prefers to play in the like actual mother.
Certainly, yeah. No, I'm not trying to like. I'm not trying to like say, oh, that's a game I should have done whatever, or like I should have gone back, or like I know there's people who like say like, oh, I got a 3-2, but I punted one game and timed out another game, and it's like, yeah, but also you don't know like if your opponent's misplayed on your wins or anything, so it's like it doesn't people count like these 3-2s as like a mental 5-0 when it's like, no, like you gotta accept what happens. I'm just trying to think back to like what things I could have done differently. Thinking about the play patterns of these games, and what are my takeaways of how I can improve from it. I mean, certainly, like, Amulet's a really, really, really hard deck to play. I mean, I've been playing it for like a decade, and obviously, I still make lots of mistakes playing it. So, it's not an easy deck to pilot, and I think making play mistakes is sort of like an occupational hazard of the deck.
Obviously, I agree.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much for doing this. I'm gonna put a link down to your Twitch and to your Twitter in the YouTube description. Was there anything else? Anything else you like, a Patreon or anything you would like to promote before we go?
Mm, just those links are gonna be okay, and be sure to share the link with me so I
Yeah.
can
All right.
share it with my viewers.
Well, once again, thank you so much. I had a lot of fun doing this. It's really cool to be able to do this with a player of as high of quality as you are, which is really getting to see what the matchups look like when I'm playing against somebody who really knows their deck. And yeah, I think I'm good. If you're good, I had a really great time, and thank you so much.
Thank you very much for playing.
All right. See ya.